my problem with this movie is the same problem I have overall with Marvel and what I have with Star Wars. And I've said this before, but it's becoming very evident now with Marvel because we haven't had much Star Wars as of late. And that is there's no agreeable reconciliation between what the fans want and what the studio wants to do. Um, there, and when I say the fans, I mean I'm really talking about like the online review community because I saw this in a theater full of people, and it was hard to gauge what they thought of it. People laughed. Um, my daughter said that there was somebody next to her that seemed to have walked out midway through and came back and then left again. I can't tell if people just in the theater that I was in were having a good time or not. Like I said, people laughed. There was no like cheering or anything like that, like you get with some of these movies. But I don't know. It seemed like people had an okay experience with it. I'm not sure if people went into it thinking it was going to be something that it for them wasn't. But when I was reading when I was looking at like the Neurotic Review, Chris Gore's Film Threat, Critical Drinker, and Red Letter Media, um, the range of opinions on it was basically, oh, this is a meditation on depression and mental health and kind of the state of where we are, as at least as in America. You can go as far as Western culture, where people are listless, dissatisfied, having trouble connecting with each other, and in a general state of mental malaise. And this is Marvel's attempt to speak to that. And then they go and say, that's not really what we want in a Marvel movie, though. We want to escape that mental malaise and go to a place of fantasy, a place that used to make us laugh and cheer and cry and took us out of the humdrum lives that we have. And to their point, Marvel used to do that. It's having trouble with that as of late. Um, like I said this about Star Wars a ways back, where it seemed like the studio wanted to do some different things with this, Ryan Johnson being at the top of that list, wanted to do something different with Star Wars, and the fans outwardly rejected it, and then they overcorrected and gave us the trash that was Rise of Skywalker. I have the same feeling here, where I think the people going into this movie was like, well, let's just not make the same generic stupid action movie and maybe we make people happy, or maybe they say, hey, this is the same stupid generic action movie that we always get. Let's try doing something different. Let's actually talk about what's going on in the culture. And then I think it gets passed around and executives look at it and go, what are you people insane? Like, you can't do this kind of A24 meditation on mental illness, modern mental illness, in the big action popcorn, $200 billion IP fucking Marvel movie. And they're like, dumb this down. And they couldn't dumb it down enough for the people who talk about these things to be satisfied. Even if they weren't in a place of nothing's going to make us happy, we hate you for what you've done. Let's forget that for a moment. Let's assume these people had an ounce of fairness in their criticism, and something could make them happy. This wasn't going to do it. So I'm watching this movie, and independently, I was enjoying it. I don't really care what Marvel does. I don't have a predisposition to demand it meet my expectation of what it should be. I go in tabula rosa, and I think, well, see what you got. See what this is. And when it opens with, and everyone's reacting to the opening scene with Yelena, like, oh, I just feel empty. I feel directionless. And I was like, sing it, sister. Like I relate to that. Identify to that. People around me relate to that. They identify with that. So far, we're doing good. And then you go back and you listen to some of these reviews, and they're just like, that's not what we want in this movie. And that's aggravating for me because, well, independently, I can enjoy this movie just fine. I'll speak to some of the craft elements in a second, but I liked it. And I like the fact that it at least took a child's swing, or a dumbed down swing at the problems with mental illness in this country. I can appreciate the fact that it is dumb and it is a child's swing, and that's the best we're going to get. Because if you do more than that, you're going to lose people, or at least they think they will. I mean, at this point, they can't even do what they did without losing people to that point. So I sympathize, and I'm not holding it against them. Robert can hold it against them. Robert doesn't have any patience for that kind of nuance, which I understand. So I'm not really fighting him about it. But I get it. I understand. I accept their limitations. So what I got was sufficient. And what I got, I enjoyed. But it's aggravating, and I'll bring this to a close and move on so I don't feel like I'm repeating myself. But it's aggravating that if Marvel doesn't produce the audience-friendly, Marvel fan-friendly fantasy fare that has no bearing on reality, then it's called crap. It's called a failure. It's called a flop. And it's like, it is hard. Like, I remember years ago when we were doing this, I would watch these movies with one or both of my kids, not even the Marvel movies, any movie, and be like, "Oh, this was great. We had a great time," and we would talk about it and be all cheerful. And then I would then I would see the online commentary on it and be like, "Jesus Christ, how could it be this bad?" So that being said, I don't. At this point, to conclude, I don't know what Marvel it can do next besides end this. Just break up with the fans, a la John Cena, which we're going to get with Secret Wars, and I can't fucking wait. I can't wait till there's no more Marvel movies and we're out of this like toxic relationship between a studio trying to either do a stupid agenda or any agenda, and an audience that won't accept anything from them. I'm kind of over it. That being said, yeah, everyone else is saying that Pullman's performance in this is like the best thing in there, and he's all right. I think he could.
It's just a little telling when Bill Pullman's kid is the best part of your movie.
He could have leaned a little bit harder into struggling with. See, and that's the other thing is they can't commit to a mental illness either. Like
man.
They don't want to make him full on schizophrenic, but so they kind of lean he's bipolar. But then they don't really they don't want to throw a name on anything because they don't want to fuck it up and get it wrong. So he's nebulously mentally ill, and so the poor actor doesn't know what he's supposed to do either. So he's kind of playing half schizophrenic, he's kind of playing half OCD, he's kind of playing half bipolar, and so again you just get nebulous mentally ill performer. Which so everyone's like, oh, he's the best part of this. Not for me. For me, I was like, ooh, you're hitting the bar. You're not quite getting over it. As far as this, Yelena, I kept thinking about, every time we make a Poochie reference, like, what is Poochie doing right now? We must always know where Poochie is, and
she kind of is becoming the Poochie of the MCU.
That's what I was thinking about. It was like because I know just from reading the development of this, they wanted this to be the Yelena movie. And they don't have the balls to just do Black Widow 2 or just do Yelena or whatever code name they've given her this week. So they have to surround her with Jennifer Lopez's dancers to make it look like she's moving. So that's for me, that's Thunderbolts. I mean, we talked about this also being kind of a summation of phases 4 and 5, but not really phase 5 because it was in development during phase 5, which we covered already in a previous podcast. So and then it's a lot of phase 4 got left out of this too. So it's really only just a sequel to Black Widow with a sprinkling of Falcon and the Winter Soldier thrown in there. And the one character, the one villain that's still alive. And by the way, when we talked about this, the one thing that we didn't talk about was Abomination. And now someone from, the far right end of the internet's going to rush in and tackle me and go, they ruined him in She-Hulk. They ruined him in She-Hulk. So no Abomination. But they could have used Abomination.
There's a lot of things they could have done here, and
I will tell you that again. This probably got noted to death because I think this had a more serious tone going into it, and the executives were like, "You gotta comedy this up. What do you think you're doing here?" So I think a lot of the jokes are like the writing staff just being like, just make an executive happy. There's no commitment to it. There's no heart in what they were doing here. It was just like, studio says more jokes, dumb this down.
Yeah, everyone's kind of said this about this movie as well, and I agree. There is a much more interesting, much better story to be had here that we did not get.